You've led sales enablement now at two very technical products, Aloglia, and then now you're at Sigma Computing. Like when you're thinking of sales training or onboarding curriculum, like how do you think about that balance of product versus process? Are you teaching, like, I mean, it must be really hard. Salespeople don't know all the technical API stuff. And so do they need to get super educated on that? Or are you more teaching them Sandler and Medic and here's how you do prospecting and all that? Like, how do you think about that balance?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough balance to strike, right? I don't think like no seller is ever going to feel amazingly confident like in the first few weeks of a technical product. I think that takes time. What I've tended to do with like a very technical product is like focus on the problem we solve. What does that pain look like? How do you just do discovery to find that pain? And what's the result of not solving that pain? What does that look like? And then what does that ideal state look like? So it's more methodology based for them to identify the pain and the problem and then show them how they can talk about how we solve it. I would say like that's why we also have SEs, our wonderful solution engineers. They can know all of the technical deep dive of the product. And so like when I'm focusing on sales onboarding, it's really about the problem we solve and how we solve it and who cares about that problem.
And when you think about building these onboarding programs, I mean, there's different types of sellers, right? There's your enterprise AE, mid-market, SMB, BDR, SDR, whatever you call it. Like, how do you think about the curriculum for each of those different cohorts of people? Because there's different maturity levels of sellers there, but then there's also similarities, right? It's the same product they're all trying to sell. So how do you think about kind of building that onboarding program across all those different seller personas?
It's funny. I've done it in different ways. I've always found, though, with enterprise sales teams, like as much tenure as they've got, a lot of time it's just going back to basics, right? Like making sure they know how to run that first call and they know what good discovery looks like. I think like the differences and the nuances happen with an SMB, the motion might be like so much different because like for Sigma, for example, our velocity motion, we're talking to companies where they're building like their data stack for the first time. And so like that sale looks very different from an enterprise that's been using Tableau or, another BI tool for years. And so like the motions are different. And so it's more about not necessarily like how to teach the product differently, but like what does the problem look like that's different in the segment and anchor on that.
Yeah, makes sense. I think like in terms of, I think about it always in terms of like doc perspective. It's like when we're talking to founders and startups, it's like they're still building out their sales process for the first time. So I'm like helping them think through like, what is that? What is even goes in a pitch deck or just film one demo video. And then I talk to like, a big public company. It's like, no, we have 1,000 demo videos for all of our different SKUs and we got to organize that. And it's like radically different problems and honestly different products we got to build to kind of solve those problems. So yeah, I don't know, your answer resonated with me a lot.
Yeah. Sure.
How do you think about like, do you try and push people to get on the phone really quickly and talk to customers and just to send out emails like, or do you wait until they're fully ramped or is it different flavors in onboarding? How do you think about that?
I mean, I think it's all dependent on how the capacity model and the ramp and their quota is designed, like their ramped quota. Like I want them to be successful. I want them to get paid. And so I think it really, really does depend on the design of their plan and when we're expecting them to be at 100%. So onboarding can change drastically depending on that.
And what's the manager's role in all this? Because there's sales enablement person is like leading the trainings and kind of building that curriculum. But then obviously all these people have managers as well. And so what's the relationship between sales enablement and kind of the person's manager? Because I assume the manager kind of has to like reinforce the learnings and hold them accountable. And yeah, how do you think about that?
Yeah. So like what we do is we have kind of like this accountability task thing. Here's what they're going to be learning. And here's what we're expecting you to talk about in your first one-on-one in your first week. And here's week 2. And so it's driving that accountability balance with managers. The reality is it takes a village to onboard people. It takes that onboarding buddy that's going to practice with them. It takes the Gong playlist that you're going to listen to show what good looks like at different parts of the sales cycle. It's all of those things. But we can't do it without the managers. They're the inspection. They are they're our ramp accountability partners. Are they hitting the milestones? And if not, Then we work together to come up with a coaching plan. So it's very shared responsibility.